Government's search for savings must be making members of the housing lobby a little uncomfortable. The Housing Industry Association has released a study supporting one of Australia's most popular tax breaks, negative gearing. But at $4 billion a year, it's an expensive concession, and the HIA's critics say the report's conclusions are just plain wrong. Here's finance correspondent Philip Lasker.
Properties in the big cities are going fast. Real estate agents are urging owners to sell to Asian investors on their way to Australia for Chinese National Day. It's hot.
There's a lot of activity going on at the moment. Some of it's driven by investors, and of course within that some of that is driven by negative gearing provisions.
Negative gearing allows people to deduct losses from an investment from any other income they may have. The Housing Industry Association's ringing endorsement of the tax concession is a response to growing support for change given pressures on the federal budget.
It is something of a popular sport, if you like, to knock negative gearing, which applies to a range of assets, not just residential property.
The report concludes that watering down negative gearing would lower living standards, add to the already high tax burden in housing, and therefore exacerbate the current undersupply problem for rental and owner-occupied properties. And all that makes houses less affordable. The report says abolishing stamp duty is more effective. It shows cutting negative gearing would push up rents, but abolishing stamp duty would see them fall more than 6%.
What you must first and foremost attack are the real obstacles to housing supply, that being inadequate land supply, very onerous and high stamp duty rates, excessive costs for residential infrastructure provision.
There's no evidence that the availability of negative gearing does anything to increase the supply of housing, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that it drives up the price of housing to the detriment of others who would like to acquire it, particularly first-home buyers.
That's partly because 90% of geared investors buy an established property, not a new one, which doesn't help ease the undersupply problem. Tax academic Michael Durkis says negative gearing's a legitimate concession which may be too generous in Australia.
It's a package, as always, with a lot of these things. There's no golden bullet solution. A reduction in the availability of negative gearing combined with reductions in some state taxes in terms of housing, the combination may in fact cancel each other out.
The negative gearing concession costs about $4 billion a year, but 1.3 million negatively geared taxpayers, from politicians to plumbers to farmers, suggests Canberra won't touch it.
Go on, congratulations. It's one of what they would see as their few remaining perks, I suppose.
Another concern is the impact that negative gearing changes might have on property prices.
And the absence of that subsidised purchasing would probably see house prices fall a bit, and I struggle to think of anything that would be more to the advantage of first-home buyers than removing negative gearing for precisely that reason.
It would have an impact upon, a short-term impact on housing availability, but if done in conjunction with other measures such as reducing stamp duties and the like, you would overcome some of those barriers to entry in terms of people being able to afford housing.
But it's unlikely we'll ever put it to the test.